Vanguard Exiles isn't just another auto-battler, it's a tense, mind-game heavy war of strategy and deception. The game mixes multiple genres. Think auto-battler mechanics with the calculated risk of a poker match and the cutthroat area control of a strategy board game, all wrapped in a gritty dieselpunk fantasy setting. When it's at its best, the game delivers some of the most thrilling and predictable battles I've played in the genre. But the rigid economy, squad imbalances, and some frustrating mechanics keeps it from fully capitalizing on its best ideas. Unlike games where units fight automatically in a single lane, like Teamfight Tactics or Auto Chess, this one focuses on zone control. Each round, or skirmish as the game calls it, you'll deploy units to zones, claim them if there's no enemy unit, or fight for control of the zone. Claiming a zone will earn you victory points, and the game keeps going until one of the players has at least 80 victory points. But that's easier said than done. At the start of each skirmish, you will be secretly deploying your units, and so does your opponent. That means you never know exactly where your opponent is placing their units until the auto-battle phase begins. It creates intense moments of mind games, and you'll have to pay close attention to the state of the map. But it can also feel frustrating, especially when mixed with some random mechanics, but I'll come back to that. The map is randomly generated every game. Different zones have a specific number of victory points and sometimes special effects. As the game progresses, the map changes enough that you can't use the same deployment strategy you've used on previously. Some zones will become inaccessible, sometimes splitting the map in two, and more zones and corridors will be available. Zones can also appear with special effects tied to them. Some have gold, which rewards you with +1 gold at the end of a skirmish, while others can have minefields, with 50% chance of dealing damage to all units at the end of a turn. It's fun and really tests your ability to outthink and outmaneuver your opponent to get to the better zones first. Where Vanguard Exiles really shines is its final round resolution. Instead of ending the game the moment a player reaches 80 victory points, the battle continues through that final round. That allows for amazing dramatic comebacks. It's a brilliant decision that leads to some incredibly tense endgame scenarios. It actually reminds me of playing Terraforming Mars or Andromeda's Edge on tabletop. A last-minute power move can really steal the victory from your opponent, and that's juicy. If you've ever played Teamfight Tactics or other traditional auto-battlers, you know these games are often about the strategic depth of economy management more than anything else. The beauty of Teamfight Tactics' income system, for example, is the variety. Do you want to push for a 3-star basic unit early? Or do you want to spend the gold on XP so you can level up and unlock rare late-game powerhouses? Or do you want to strike a balance between both? Each path offers unique challenges and rewards, and knowing when to pivot is often the difference between victory and defeat. Deciding where to spend your gold adds layers of tension and decision-making to these games. In Vanguard Exiles, the income system is way simpler. After each skirmish, you're given 1 gold automatically and go straight to the shop. There you can select one of 3 options to buy. One free option, that is one of the 3 unlimited units you have in your squad. The 2 others are random selection of actions and units from your limited pool that you'll have to pay for. The twist? Gold is pretty tight, with the only way to earn more being a few +1 gold zones. Some options on the store may also offer you +1 gold for buying them. It's usually a free option. The issue is that quite often, I've had no luck in my shop offering and couldn't do anything about it. If you're sitting on 7 gold with no good options, the frustration is real. Income management lacks the satisfying complexity of its competitors, and while the gold system is functional, it feels like a missed opportunity to add more layers to the strategy. What's missing here is that crucial level of choice and strategy of what to do with your gold. Unlike Teamfight Tactics, where you can manipulate your economy to build towards specific goals, Vanguard Exiles doesn't give you that flexibility. The shop feels limiting. The lack of ways to refresh the available options makes you feel stuck with whatever the game gives you. I would love to be able to unlock new slots or refresh my shop for a cost, and that will go a long way towards giving me some more options. There is also no experience system to unlock higher rarity units on the shop. While rare units do pop up occasionally, their appearance seems completely random, and the player has no influence on it. I feel the game could really benefit from a system where you can earn ranks. It's a military setting after all, and like in teamfight tactics or auto chess, it would then increase the likelihood of seeing a rare unit. That would alleviate those moments where you have more than enough gold, but can't get the one unit you need. And speaking of rarity, there's barely any here. Units only come in two rarities, normal or rare, and unlike traditional auto battlers, you cannot stack copies of a unit to create a stronger version of it. No matter how many times you buy the same unit, it stays the same power level. This removes a lot of the fun of improving your units over time, and it leaves you with a more static experience. In Vanguard Exiles, deploying units into various zones is just one part of the strategy. Your squad is composed of randomly assigned units from two factions, alongside a random set of special actions. These can either enhance your deployed units or affect the zones themselves with special effects. These actions can be as powerful as they are unpredictable. Some even lean towards being overpowered to the point of feeling broken. Take the Purify Station zone action. It's a neat action that lets you play it on previously claimed zones. It adds the Toxic 1 trait, causing all units to take 1 damage at the end of each turn. And then there's Ruin. This zone action destroys a zone and turns it into an unclaimable 0 victory point area. A single ruin can completely derail a good deployment, and it costs only 1 gold. Its impact feels wildly disproportionate to its price. I've experienced the thrill of being 23 victory points behind, only to snatch victory in a single skirmish. It feels like holding a blue shell in Mario Kart when you're hopelessly behind. It feels super satisfying. But imagine holding the blue shell while being ahead. That is broken. Add to that issue that you can have multiples of the same actions in your squad, and with infinite squad rerolls, I got 3 rune actions in my squad and super solid units to play with. When it feels that easy to break the game's balance, it's hard to shake the feeling that something's off, especially when you can stack this kind of advantage without any risk. This randomness, while exciting, can lead to a few too many moments of feel bad. Randomized pathing is one of the game's most puzzling design decisions. Once your unit claims a zone, they don't march towards a zone you've selected, they just go somewhere. This decision is entirely out of your hands, and your forces might split up and head to a zone you don't care about, or even worse, fail to concentrate their strength in a contested zone, costing you the fight and valuable victory points. It's a level of randomness that can feel like a battle against the game itself. This is a standard design practice for most auto battlers, but I'm not a fan of how it works for this game in particular. And if history is any indication, this kind of randomness can be a death sentence for strategy games. Take Artifact, Richard Garfield's ill-fated collaboration with Valve. Despite its innovative ideas, it had one mechanic that most people hated. Units would randomly choose their attack direction at the start of each turn. Sometimes they'd go straight for the tower, the win condition, but other times they'd veer off to hit a random adjacent enemy, throwing your entire plan off. There's a massive difference though. In Artifact, that randomness is what's known as input randomness. It's something that happens before the player's turn, giving them a chance to react and adapt. Vanguard Exiles, on the other hand, takes it to an even more extreme level. It offers no way to influence unit pathing at all. You just have to sit back and hope for the best. This is what we call output randomness, and it's usually the one type of randomness you don't want in a game. The brilliant skirmish analysis tool, the Resolver, will at least tell you whether you were lucky or not, but that doesn't change the fact that you had zero agency in the moment. Sure, sometimes randomness works in your favor, leading to an unexpected victory, but when it doesn't, it can feel like you lost not because of a mistake, but because the game decided you should. A huge game like Hearthstone received backlash for some of its more RNG-heavy mechanics. They ended up having to tone it down to keep competitive balance in check, and this game may need to do the same at some point. Strategy games thrive on giving player control over their fate, and right now, Vanguard Exiles feels like it's stuck between being a traditional auto-battler and a strategy game, without fully committing to either. The good news? This isn't necessarily set in stone. Richard Garfield has already expressed that he wants the game to evolve through player feedback during early access. And if there's one thing veteran designers understand, it's that games should grow alongside their audience. And if randomized pathing wasn't enough, there is also randomized initiative and targeting systems that adds to an already quite unpredictable game. You might sometimes lose battles because initiative was unfavorable for you. Worse, sometimes units will target a full health enemy and there was an available unit that would have died. I've had many a good fight ruined by this mechanic, and let's not even speak about ranged units. They love to attack units in the other zones instead of first attacking enemies in their zone, dying in the process of course. And on top of that, there's also a dodge value for most units. Dodge is usually set around 10% chance, but I've seen as high as 25% chance for some specialized units. That can spell disaster or save you from a certain death, and again, it's entirely out of your hands. It feels like the game wants to be an exciting game to spectate and experience, but for a more strategy-focused player, these could well be deal breakers. I really expect a divide in the community playing the game. Some will be happy with how entertaining it is to watch and play, while others might wish for more predictable outcomes. The game has 3 factions, each offering distinct playstyles, keywords, and mechanics. This variety creates exciting opportunities to experiment with combos, unit abilities, and map placement to pull off powerful chain reactions. The factions also shine visually, with a ton of personality and style. I challenge you to not love Berserker Bears or Greeks. The designs are wonderful. The big issue is that the game buries this depth and visual information behind a frustrating, incomplete UI. One of Vanguard Exiles' biggest missteps is how little information it gives you upfront. You cannot fully inspect the units and actions of a squad before the game actually starts and you see that card in your hand or in the shop. A PDF file is available on the official website with a few pages showing all the units, their stats, and their keywords. I'm sure it's temporary, but right now the game information is really lacking. There's a simple fix really. Let us see each unit and the action cards info on the squad screen. If you're unfamiliar with each unit and action, early matches become more about trial and error than strategy. It's not really fun guessing whether your random faction combo is even viable. This is probably gonna be fixed either by the time the early access version gets out or quite fast when it comes out. But as of right now, this is incredibly frustrating. The UI and UX will need to be improved for sure, but overall, most of the UI is clear and easy to use. Richard Garfield's recent tabletop designs like Soulforge Fusion or Keyforge use algorithms to generate completely unique decks. Vanguard Exiles follows suit with its squad system. This feature does keep things fresh and unpredictable and make sure that the players can't optimize fully their squad themselves. There is no way to craft the perfect broken squad, but it's also something that can rub the players the wrong way. Some will love the chaotic, pre-built nature of the squads, while others may hate the lack of control. Also, some squads can be generated with twice as many rare units as others, but there's no real explanation why. The last squad I generated had 6 rare units as well as 3 runes. Absolute destruction for the AI bot I'm playing against, who can't keep up at all halfway through extreme difficulty. Players will always optimize however they can, and a meta will still exist whether the designer likes it or not. As the game progresses, it'll be fascinating to see if the system finds its sweet spot between balance and unpredictability. After 20 hours of playing the game, I'm not ready to put it down anytime soon. If like me you're a fan of area control games, it's absolutely worth checking out. Auto Battler veterans might however find the lack of familiar mechanics a bit of a hurdle. Right now, it's a fun but somewhat frustrating strategy game that rewards careful play, punishes mistakes a little too harshly, and that's before even taking into account the randomness. It's definitely worth giving the demo a shot though. Take some time to learn its intricacies and see if its unique blend of mechanics clicks for you. With early access launching on March 11th, it'll be exciting to see how the game evolves with community feedback. If the developers fine-tune the shop and economy, the faction balance, the user interface, and revisit some of the systems in place, I can definitely see the game shine. Vanguard Exiles is innovative, comes with a great setting and interesting faction variety. The zone-based battles, mind games heavy deployments, and tense final rounds makes every match feel different. But unpredictable mechanics, a rigid economy and a lack of transparency during squad selection holds it back from being truly great for now. And if you like more in-depth reviews, please consider subscribing for more content.